the mixed martial arts rule set has been clearly defined for the best part of 2 decades, that doesn't stop some of the sport's competitors from attempting to cheat in order to secure victory. And while it doesn't always work in their favor in the long run, for this video we're going to take a look at 10 fighters who clearly broke the rules in order to secure a victory. Yoel Romero. Yoel Romero is no stranger to bending the rules of MMA to suit his aims. And while he has had more than a few strange moments inside the UFC octagon, it was his infamous occurrence known as the stool gate that stands out amongst the pack. Facing off against the veteran Tim Kennedy, Romero's fortunes turned for the worst when at the end of the second round, as Kennedy started to turn up the heat tremendously, capitalizing on Yoel's clear fatigue. However, in between rounds, Romero and his corner took at least 30 seconds of extra breathing time as they applied too much Vaseline on their fighter to allow him to fight. With that extra rest in his back pocket, Romero exploded out of the gates in the third, knocking Kennedy out in one of the opening exchanges to win the fight. Stranja Gravilovic. Stranja Gravilovic has done enough to secure the victory over his opponent Joe Valley, hammering him with some brutal ground and pound to force the referee's intervention. However, that clearly wasn't enough for him. With his opponent clearly beaten and the referee trying his utmost to separate them, Gravilovic continued to rain down hard shots on Valley to such an extent that his win was overruled. Who knows what was going through the mind of Gravilovic in this moment of madness, but all in all, it was a clear case of cheating and a deserving entry to this list. Daniel Cormier. Everyone's favorite two-weight world champion didn't always command the level of adoration he has these days. Cormier was, of course, the heel in earlier stages of his rivalry with Jon Jones in the eye of most fans. And during his own run as light heavyweight champion, he managed to alienate a large portion of his audience through his sneaky tactics at UFC 210. Taking to the skills for his official pre-fight weigh-in ahead of his clash with Anthony Rumble Johnson, it looked like DC was struggling to hit the 205 limit. However, in a miraculous turn of fate, moments later he was able to hit his target without issue. The problem? Well, during that second weigh-in, Cormier was clearly balancing on the towel given to him by the commission to preserve his mindset, taking in just enough pressure off the scales to see him reach the 205 pounds. Dirty tactics or a clever move? That's your call. Bob Schreiber. The aptly named Dirty Bob Schreiber lived up to his moniker during a battle against Danjiro Masui under the Pride banner. Schreiber was a hulking behemoth of a man and towards the end of the opening round was assaulting his dominance over his opponent through some highly effective ground and pound. Matsui, to put it lightly, had no answer for his opponent's offense, but for Dirty Bob that wasn't enough. As soon as the ref moved in to end the round, Bob used that opportunity to land a legal axe kick on his downed opponent, causing his immediate disqualification. You'd think that this blatant case of cheating would be enough to see Schreiber booted from the promotion, but sure enough, he would return just a year later to Pride to take on a young Wanderlei Silva, losing by first round rear naked choke. Anderson Silva. Everyone remembers the rivalry between the legendary middleweights Anderson Silva and Chael Sonnen for their stunning first showdown for the 185 belt back in 2010. The last gasp submission victory over the Spider in the dying embers of the 5th round will likely be featured on a highlight reels for all time, and yet when the pair faced off for the second time, the bout was something of a dud. Indeed, most remember Silva Sonnen 2 for Chael's inadvisable spinning back fist that led to his TKO defeat, but most forget that Anderson helped himself towards that victory with some very clear rule bending prior to that. The bout's early exchanges look eerily similar to the first clash, with Sonnen taking his opponent down at will. However, upon closer inspection, it was clear that Silva, during one takedown attempt, was holding onto the shorts of his adversary, preventing him from securing the takedown. The foul went unnoticed at the time, and Silva was able to move 2-0 over his great rival, effectively ending their competitive relationship there and then. Sergio Da Silva. Sergio managed to come through with a real contender for the checklist move in the history of mixed martial arts during his weigh-in for Bellator NYC back in 2017. Knowing that he was way over the limits for his weight class, Da Silva, in a real show of desperation, did everything he could to cheat the system, attempting on 2 different occasions to sneak his toes off of the scale to relieve the pressure of his weight. No, seriously, he actually tried to do this in front of several members of the New York State Athletic Commission who are watching him like a hawk. Despite him being caught after every attempt, he then attempted to step off of the scales, confident that he had already successfully weighed in. As you'd expect, the NYSAC were having none of it, telling him that he would be forced to weigh in both feet on the scales or not fight at all. In the end, it mattered little, as he was already submitted in the third round by his opponent, Matthew Rizzo, never again fighting under the Bellator banner. Rosenball Pajares. Would any video about MMA cheaters truly be complete without a mention of Rosenball? As one of the all-time dirtiest fighters in the history of the sport due to his habit of holding on to submissions long after the tap is forced, it's pretty clear that Pajares doesn't have a care in the world as far as what other fans think of him. And during one memorable finishing sequence against Jake Shields, his tendency to fight was highlighted to a bigger audience than ever before. After locking up the fight ending Kimura to bring about one of the biggest moments of his career to date, Pajares, being Pajares, decided to once again torque the arm far longer than necessary, leaving his opponent in a world of pain. The win, in the end, stood despite his controversial ending, leaving Pajares free to continue his run through the sport. Barnett. Josh Barnett, to put it lightly, has had something of a patchy history with anti-doping agencies. Originally booted from the UFC following a positive test for banned substances, he was snapped up by Pride before testing hot again. Upon being signed up by the now-defunct fight promotion Affliction as an opponent for the legendary Fedor Emelianenko, fan interest was high as these two proven divisional veterans prepared to face off over 5 rounds. However, in his attempt to get every possible advantage over the last emperor, Barnett again once tested positive for anabolic steroids, causing the bout to be scrapped in just 10 days from its original date. In the end, Barnett would never get his chance to fight Fedor, but will go on to compete in both Strikeforce and in another run in the bright lights of the UFC. Mario Said. We next move over to the European promotion Cage Warriors, an organization known for birthing superstars and future UFC champions such as Conor McGregor and Michael Bisping. However, we're sure that their matchup between Mario Said and Ozzy Thomas is one they'd rather forget entirely. In the bout's opening round, Said had secured the top position, stacking Thomas's legs in the hopes of raining down some ground and pound. However, Thomas began using his own position to fire off some vicious up kicks. And while the attempt was clearly in good faith, Said was technically grounded as one of them landed. Cause for disqualification? Probably. The problem was that Said fell backwards to signal to the referee that he had been hit with an illegal strike. He first protested the ref mid-fall before then deciding to pretend to be unconscious a split second later. Seriously, you have to see it to believe it. Unfortunately, the trick worked a treat, and Said took home a disqualification victory. Royce Gracie. The legendary Royce Gracie might have been nearly a decade removed from his mixed martial arts debut, but when he signed to take on the self-proclaimed Gracie killer Kazushi Sakuraba under the Elite XC banner, fan interest was well and truly peaked. And while Gracie managed to successfully turn back the clock and take home the unanimous decision victory, it later emerged that Royce had tested positive for the banned substance nandrolone. Gracie and his family protested this ruling and vehemently denied any wrongdoings, and though it came as a major surprise to the fans, the fight's result was not overturned, leaving Royce with the win and a 14-2-3 professional record. And that will just about do it for this video, folks. Did we miss out on any obvious picks as far as clear instances of cheating are concerned? Be sure to let us know in the comment section down below before subscribing to the channel so you can stay up to date with all of our latest uploads.